Our friend Chris Rufo has been one of the most vocal, not defenders, opposite of defenders, attackers on critical race theory. He's been absolutely fantastic. He was on Mark Lamont Hill's show the other day, and here's the question that Hill asked Rufo.
And if I were to say to you right now, Christopher, what do you like about being white? What would you say?
I don't know. Again, it's such an amorphous term. It's like a census term or a
But can you do me a favor? Indulge me for one. We're running out of time. Indulge me for a minute. I understand you see it as all these things, but you surely recognize that the world sees you as white. You know the world reads you as white. And if you were to ask me some things I like about being black, I could talk about cultural norms, I could talk about tradition, I could talk about the kind of commonalities I feel around the diaspora. If I were to ask you what, particularly if you're saying whiteness is a thing that is being constructed as negative and shouldn't be, name something positive that you like about being white.
Amazing. Liz Wheeler's here from the Liz Wheeler Show, LizWheelerShow.com. She also has a wonderful locals account as well, so you can be a part of her community there. Liz Wheeler, how are you?
Mike, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome to talk to you. I think Chris Rufo did as good of a job as one could do on the spot answering that ridiculous question. How would you answer that to Mark Lamont Hill?
Sure, I agree. Chris Rufo, a friend of mine, did a fabulous job. It was a trick question. It wasn't a question asked in good faith. And Chris Rufo answered that he should be identified by his individual characteristics, basically MLK's content of character versus color of my skin. So he did a wonderful job. Kudos to him. How would I answer that question? I would say, well, what I like about being white, I like being white because that's the way that God made me in God's image, just like Mark Lamont Hill should like being black because that's the way God made him in God's image. That's actually why there can be no racial superiority or inferiority, because we're all made in God's image and there's nothing inferior or superior about different aspects of the way that God made us. So I mean, it just comes back to, it's not just political correctness anymore. It's not just wokeness anymore. This is critical race theory. You've talked about this a lot. I talk about this a lot. I did an episode of my show recently talking about the history of critical race theory, but it's actually more than just the racism of viewing everyone through the prism of their skin color, reducing everyone to the amount of melanin in their skin. It's actually a tactic. Critical race theory is, it's not a theory at all. It's a tactic to impose Marxism on the United States. And I know that sounds like a wild claim, but I traced it back to the founders, the architects of critical race theory, critical theory actually, which is the grandfather, and we can get into that if you want. And what I found was fascinating.
Wow, that was deep and insightful. I want more of that. Like, subscribe, get more.